Hey guys, it's Jess, and I'm sharing a new card with you today featuring Trinity Stamps' new release. This stuff is just released in April, and I'm really excited about the new stamp sets. There's new stencils, there's a whole lot of stuff, but I am showcasing this adorable otter themed stamp set. So it's these cute little otters in outer space, and I'm going to have everything linked down below in case you guys want to check it out. But basically, I knew I wanted to make an I Miss You card, kind of showing how we're all apart during these times, but can still reach out and be thinking of each other. You can see that I used my hand to kind of buff the stamp a little bit. This was the first time I've ever used this stamp, and I find that that helps to get a clean impression the first time you stamp it out. And I used my mini Misty, which is a stamp positioner, to do my stamping. That way I could make sure I got the stamp in the same place every time. I used masking paper to cover up the areas that I didn't want to get the ink on, and then that made it look like each of the little otters is holding on to that string, even though the original stamp was longer than that. So then I took a pair of nice and sharp scissors and cut out around the whole outside of this little image. I was originally going to make this background, like basically mask everything off and create a new background and all of that, but then I thought I actually had a background that I could already use for this that was perfect for it, and I am really on a use up all your backgrounds kick lately. I'm going to go ahead and link to another video that I've done where I show you guys ways that you can use up backgrounds that you have in your stash, and I thought this was a perfect way to do that. So I'll show you how I made that background, but it is something that I made previously. All right, I am going to be doing coloring for a little bit here, so I'm going to turn on some music while I do that. I'm using Spectrum Noir Classique markers. This is an alcohol-based marker, and while I do that, I'm going to pop on that music, and then I'll be right back with you to finish up the card. All right, now that our coloring is just about done, we can go ahead and start working on the rest of the card. So there is the background that I created, but I did pull this footage from the live video that I created it during. So I am talking with my hands a lot in this video. I do apologize for that, but I wanted to include it and show you guys how I kind of put this together and how this background came together. So I'm using Distress inks. Usually when I create lately, I've been using Distress oxides, but I wanted to use the Distress inks here. And I'll have all the colors linked down below for you guys in case you want to duplicate this with the ink pads that you have. But basically I am just using the mini ink blending tool with the foam blending pads. I'm swirling that ink around, or the blending pad around in the ink, and then applying it directly to my cardstock. I started with the lighter colors, so I used that weathered wood and the tattered rose on the background there first, and then I go over it with the black soot, which is the black color. And I find that just going darker on the edges and then really light on the center so that it very, very barely covers up the lighter colors really helps to kind of give a nice sort of cloudy or nebula sort of look. I have no idea if that's the right space term. I'm just making things up. You can see I had a bit of a smudge there, but I was able to mostly fix it. Now here I'm using the Distress sprayer, spritzing that water directly into my hand and then flicking it onto the cardstock. cardstock or the ink blended background. Then I use a clean paper towel to go ahead and pick up the excess water after I let it sit for just a minute. And then I'm going to pull out a little bit of white craft paint. So I squirt this directly onto my craft mat. I'm going to go ahead and spritz that with the water as well, and then swirl it around with a paintbrush. Now I did pull out the Distress, what is that thing called? The Distress Splatter Brush? Splatter brush, that's it. Just to show that you can use that as well, but it does give a more fine sort of spray. You can control it, but I was really liking the effect I was getting with the paintbrush, so I just switched back to that. But you can definitely use either. I do use that splatter brush very frequently. Once I let that dry, then it's good to go ahead and use. Now, I actually went and scanned that image and then turned it into postcards. So I used a third-party printing service. They printed my image onto postcards, and now I have that background that I can use over and over again. I just loved how it turned out so much that I wanted to have more of them. And I was actually using them for my son's birthday invitations at the time, so it worked out perfectly. All right, here I did some embossing with white embossing powder. I used the sticky ink to stamp my sentiment, treated the surface with an anti-static powder first so that no embossing powder stuck where I didn't want it. And then I went ahead and melted that embossing powder with my heat tool. Once that was done, I trimmed it down with my paper trimmer, so it was just a nice little strip. And then I'm just using some liquid adhesive to attach my super cute little otters to their outer space scene. Now the reason that this background is shiny is because it is one of the postcard versions of this background. I had already used the original, so this one has a little bit of a shine to it, which makes it hard to photograph, but in person it looks perfect. It's not like super shiny or anything in person, but it does kind of catch the light sometimes when I'm filming or trying to photograph. So I went ahead and glued the sentiment strip down as well, and then mounted this on a white A2 size card base. I wanted to keep this pretty simple because the background is pretty fabulous, in my opinion at least, and I liked the coloring, so I left it as is, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. Be sure to drop me a comment down below and let me know what you think about the card. I love hearing what you guys think, and if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe to my channel for more videos like this, and I'll see you in another one really soon.